Well, hello everyone, I'm back for another update here. I'm on yet another hike here on a trail I haven't been on in quite some time. Being that it's such a beautiful sunny day, I decided to go out yet again, share this experience. And it's just so beautiful up here with the snow cover and out in the woods. I'm turning around here. I'm not going to go all the way up to the top of Middle Mountain. It's too icy steep from here on to get to the top. I mean, it's probably would normally be about another 15-20 minutes to get to the top of that ridge, but it's already 4:30. Sun is getting low in the sky, so I'm not going to attempt that today. I'm going to turn around here and retrace my steps back to Paint Bank, which is where I came up from. And I am on a spur ridge to Middle Mountain. Spur ridges usually aren't as steep to climb, because it is, again, quite icy in spots. And this is looking down. We did manage to get up to about 30 degrees today with the sunshine. It did get down to, I saw my thermometer this morning, it was down as low as 6. It may have gotten a bit lower above. And my water pipes, I'm concerned, they almost froze last night. I turned them on just in time this morning to get the water flowing, and so they didn't freeze on me. The last 2 winters I've had frozen pipes. So this is a nice way to get up to the top of Middle Mountain right there. Potts is in that direction, the ridge continues, and the valley where Paint Bank is down where those clearings are. So I am quite a ways up in elevation right now. I'm going to share at least some of this descent back down. And what I'm going to talk about is more on that. They call it a historic winter storm that hit the southeast. It did not impact locally. We did get the clouds from it yesterday, as you saw, but they cleared out and the air was just too dry. None of the snow here made it to the ground. I mean, we would have had several hours of light snowfall if the atmosphere was more moist, but yeah, it all evaporated. We didn't even get a flake here as far as I know. It cleared out last night around midnight. So yeah, this is a beautiful spur ridge to Middle Mountain. I'm heading down, as I said. It is absolutely beautiful up here with the snow. And again, I have not been here in quite some time. So I decided to go to a different area today. But yeah, that storm, people calling it a once-in-a-lifetime. Records from 1895 were broken in some places. Florida, one place got 8.8 inches of snow, breaking the state snowfall record. And many other countless records were broken. And I had said nearly a week ago that this storm had tremendous potential to drop big amounts of snow. And they were only predicting an inch or 2 at that point. And I had said that there's a lot more potential to this storm. of dumping much more than that. And there was widespread 8 to 10 inches of snow. New Orleans got almost 10 inches of snow. Again, some people call it a once in a lifetime. And it has not happened in 130 years, since 1895. This is the biggest snowstorm since 1895. In some places, such as Tallahassee, Florida, it even beat 1895. And several other areas. There's other areas where it did not. I mean, 1895 dumped 30 inches of snow on parts of Louisiana, but it was a widespread 1 to 2 foot snowfall. We didn't quite equal that, but came close. And New Orleans broke a record set back since 1963, so over 60 years ago. During the cool period of the 60s, where that record was set. And it's a little bit steeper here, so I'm going to try to keep the video going. I don't know if I can. It's the steepest section right here to get down. I'm taking it slow. But yeah, this storm was incredible. I've seen lots of footage of, you would never imagine it's New Orleans or Tallahassee or Florida. What an incredible weather event. And yet, other places are record warm. As I've said, with the jet stream, when it gets this extreme, there's other places that are going to be seesawing the other way. And I looked at temperatures in Alaska, and I'm hard pressed to find anything below 0 up there. And some places were well up in the 20s above 0 in Alaska, which is way above average, as well as parts of northwestern Canada. And people who believe in global warming, man-made, are trying to argue that this was Arctic amplification. Warm air in the Arctic pushed all this air south to create all this weather we've been getting. And they need to educate themselves on past weather events, because I remember 1977 when Florida got a widespread snowfall and record low temperatures, and the whole eastern U.S. was bone chilling. That the same thing happened where Alaska was up in the 30s, 40s, even in Anchorage, that I still remember. So did Arctic amplification do it back in the 70s? Was global warming going on in the 70s to cause that weather pattern to occur, similar to what we're seeing now? And there are numerous other examples of that happening, where it's that very ridge over Alaska that brings winter weather to the eastern U.S. You have a ridge over Alaska, it sends cold air from Siberia down across the North Pole into the U.S. And back in the 70s, they correctly said it was global cooling causing those weather patterns to increase. So and the cold pattern is going to continue for, as I've been saying, close to another week. To get reinforcing shots of cold air. They are saying next week is going to be a warm-up, but that's still up in the air to some extent, because the MJO is having trouble getting into the warmer phases. It's trying to go into phase 4, but there's still a lot of convection in phase 3, which is offsetting it. There's still some convection developing in phase 7 again, phase 1. And I don't just look at the climate prediction MJO chart, I look at the convection myself and see where it's occurring, what the trends are, what zones the convection is in, and try to create a composite of different zones, because many times the convection is occurring in more than one zone at once. It isn't just strictly in one area. So many times it's a blend of different phases that's going on. It may not be a cut and dry one phase MJO. And I'm one of the few people that mention that. Again, I was never officially a meteorologist because of this system and the way it works. And they wanted a college degree. To me, it was a scam. But if the state turned around and said, you've got abilities to be a meteorologist, we're going to make a meteorologist out of you, I would have done it. But I wasn't going to play the game of being scammed and going to college. But that's just my view of it, and I see what happened to my son. Still hasn't gotten a meteorologist job because it's a scam. You're not guaranteed a job when you get out of college. But getting back to what I was talking about, this pattern we see this winter is reminiscent of the 70s, especially 76, 77, where we had a northwest flow out of the Arctic the whole month of January. Maybe it's not quite as extremely cold as it was that year, but it's giving it a run for the money. And 76, 77, even that year, warmer weather did come in February that winter. I mean, temperatures returned to normal for the month of February, even that year. It didn't last through February or anything. And now the sun, the spot count has gone back up above, that was 250 this morning when I looked. Just another spike in activity last couple days. And how long is it going to last? I feel it's not going to last more than a few days, maybe a week. The cosmic ray count continues at around it did come down slightly due to the elevated sunspots. We have 9 regions active on the sun when I looked this morning. And equal distribution, northern and southern. Northern has picked up a little bit the last few days, northern hemisphere of the sun. So that's probably why it's up above 200 again, because the northern hemisphere has gotten some regions lately. So there's another view of the valley down below. And this trail takes you down off the ridge eventually. So yeah, as I've touched on, the MJO is going to have trouble getting and staying, especially staying in the warmer phases. Like 5 there's not much going on in the phase 5 zone in comparison to other areas. 6, it appears they're trying to get some convection going in 6. I see blobs there trying to form. And there's the top of middle again. But whether it gets going, phase 6 is the enemy to winter in the eastern U.S. If they can get it even into just phase 6 for a while, it's going to kill winter here. They're trying to, it looks like. But there's a lot of convection right now, kind of like what we saw in December, where there was a lot of convection in the phase 3 and 4 zone for a lot of that month. And it led to, again, a dry northwest flow over the eastern U.S. The western 2/3 had a warm up of the country. but not much going on right now in the phase 5 zone. So again, it's telling me that they're not going to be able to get it into all three. Worst case scenario looks like it would be a phase 4/6 combo. It still would bring warmth to much of the country if that's achieved for a week or two. Worst case, I mean, for those who want winter to continue. Best case for those who hate winter. At this point in time, it looks like, again, February is at the very least going to be a normal temperature-wise month. And I know the climate prediction says it's going to be warm east of the eastern U.S. I kind of don't agree with that. They said January was going to be a torch back in December. And again, they're basing their forecast solely on La Nina. They're not taking into consideration any other factors. They're basically echoing the winter forecast they issued back in October. They're basically repeating it for February. Not taking into consideration that December was a lot colder. January's been really cold. I was looking way off to the northeast toward Covington. Those mountains in the distance are just outside of Covington. That's Peters in front of me. So most people and meteorologists feel we will never see a repeat of this storm. I feel it's possible we could in the next 10 years. Once the sun gets into a minimum of the 11-year cycle, it's not out of the question we could see a rinse and repeat of this scenario. Look at that, that is just absolutely beautiful. The way the sun is hitting that snow, and the trees, the shadows, it's just really, the snow really changes everything. As you can see, I'm taking you down a trail that few other people traverse. See, the only set of footprints are mine. Nobody has been on this trail for quite some time. As you can see, the sun hits in the afternoon this side of the ridge, and lots of it is bare of snow. But yeah, I did mention the sun has perked up in activity, so that does have a bearing on how the rest of the winter might go. If this elevated activity continues, this zonal pattern is going to continue probably through the rest of the winter. The reason why January got more interesting is because the sun quieted down, and that did make a difference. And there's a trail, you can see it loops around down below. It perhaps might make a difference if the sun stays up over 200 sunspot type deal for a while. It depends on how long this lasts. But that's why the flow has been zonal for the most part, because, or not very wavy. I mean, there are waves in the jet stream, but higher solar activity causes the jet stream to flatten out and take a more west to east flow, but it's still meridional enough to where cold air got across Siberia into the US and eastern parts of Canada, and warm air up from the Pacific into Alaska. It's still, because this solar max is weaker than average, it didn't make the pattern totally zonal, but more zonal than it's been. And here we go, we're looping around this bend here. Trail just came from down there, right up there. I mean, if the sun drops off by like next week back to less than 100 sunspots, the middle of February and the middle of March could get interesting. That's depending on the sun. Again, the sun drives the patterns for the most part. We are still in a solar max. Will be for the rest of 2025. So it's still possible the sun could have a few more bursts of activity. I'm about halfway down, and there's the side of the ridge where I just came from. Trail continues. And I'll try to get home before sunset, because I know the temperatures are going to drop precipitously once that sun goes down. I do have 4 layers on, plus 4 layers including a heavy jacket. This would make a great cross-country ski trail, actually, under the conditions we have right now. We got perfect conditions, a thin layer of snow over a base of thicker snow and ice. Perfect. It's just you'd have to be careful of the ice spots, of course. Nice little grove of pine trees here. I'm gonna have to end this video. My hand is getting a little cold. I'll be back soon.